What's good, YouTube? My name is Daze, and today I want to talk about something that is commonly overlooked but really important to know about in fighting games, especially when you're like kind of new or just trying to get better, and that is overextension. So what is overextending? If I were to give it a very simple definition, it would be when you get too greedy and start pushing the bounds of how much advantage you have in any given situation. Now, I say greedy, but this can actually be done unintentionally by people who just genuinely believe that they have really heavy advantage. So I think Soul is actually a super good character to sort of exemplify this. If you remember, in the past versions of this game, his main combo ender, Bandit Revolver. Oh, she's blocking. Oh my lord. Alright. Okay. So this move right here, Bandit Revolver, this knockdown used to have a ground slide on it. So the second hit of this move would like slide them along the ground and gave Soul a little bit more frame advantage to work with. And just so I don't leave any of my newer fighting game players behind, you can think of frame advantage in more than just terms of this is plus on block or this is negative on block. Frame advantage can also be calculated on knockdown. So when you knock your opponent down with any given move, say it be sweep or Bandit Revolver, in this case, there is a set definitive amount of frames where you can act where your opponent cannot. That is while they're teching or recovering. So if I were to just throw a number off the top of my head, say this knockdown is like plus 25 or something, right? I have 25 frames where I can do whatever I want and you cannot control your character. This is important to note because that definitive number actually dictates what people can and cannot feasibly get away with on Oki. For example, because this knockdown doesn't ground slide anymore and they tech as soon as they hit the ground or start recovering as soon as they hit the ground, Soul cannot hit you with this move and then dash in and do a meaty close slash. It is impossible for him to get this. He literally cannot do it. Alright, so even if you were to get hit here, he does have some frame advantage, but not enough to run up and get into position for close slash, press close slash, and actually meaty you. Try as hard as you want to get over there and meaty with this close slash, like from mid-screen, right? It's just not happening. You can't do it, right? Like, even like starting way in the corner, like Geo just gets to jump away, right? Geo can mash if she wants to. Right, she can hit 2K, you know, you can't do it. There's not enough frame advantage. So if you're Soul here, what do you do? If every time you try to press your advantage you get hit, what's the response here? It's definitely not try to force the close slash anyway and get hit by 6p or something like that every single time. This is some general advice for competitive games in general. Doesn't really matter if you play Smash, League, or Strive or whatever. The easiest opponent to beat is the one that just gives you what you're looking for every single time. You don't want to be this person. This person would not care about the fact that he doesn't have enough frame advantage to run up and do close slash. Right? He tried to do it anyway and get hit every single time, right? And lose that life. Right? Geo's like, yo, I'm gonna 6p you. It doesn't matter, right? And then RC and do whatever, right? You don't want to be this person. So that being said, I assume some people might have caught on to this already. Well, why don't you just do this, for example, right? But there are actually 3 things that you can do here in this kind of scenario. The first is to do a meaty that you are guaranteed to hit them with meaty, even if it doesn't lead to very good pressure. That would be, in Soul's case, knocking them down with a Revolver, and then just dashing up and doing meaty 2K, right? This move will reach them in time, right? Like, you don't have time to dash in deeper and do close slash, you don't have the frame advantage, but 2K will definitely meaty them properly. On paper, meaty close slash would be a way better option than doing either 2S or a 2K meaty, right? Because this move is plus on block and has a ton of hit stun, you know. Gives you a lot of time to kind of confirm the situation and set up offense in basically any way you want. You can jump cancel, you can do whatever, basically, right? You have way less options off of like a 2K or a 2S, but in exchange, your opponent cannot press on you, right? If you knock them down with a Revolver and you run up and you do 2S meaty, right? Like, they can't mash, right? If you try to do the close slash and get greedy and try to do the close slash, oh my lord, my meaties. Okay, let's try this again. I think that was it. Let's be super sick. There we go. That hit super meaty. Right, I start hitting buttons here, I get hit, you know, to slow down, Soul can actually get a pretty decent combo off of this. So the pressure off of 2S obviously isn't as good as close slash, but you are guaranteed to get it and they can't press on you. The second option, which actually ties into the first of it, is to just wait and look for the response. This is probably the best option out of the 3. Even though you just knocked them down, you don't really have to press your advantage so hard, especially if you knock them down in the corner. Say like this combo leads you into the corner really quickly. Right, like this positioning is strong in fighting games. You want to be here. Your opponent's back is to the wall. They can't go anywhere. You are free to adjust space. Right, you can go backwards, you can go forwards. your opponent can only move forward. They have to get past you. This is a good place to be. You don't really lose a whole lot for just waiting here. Good to gear pressure has always really been more about keeping your opponent in the box, you know, more box them up in a corner rather than just doing mad long block streams and just staying in and facing, doing button after button after button. You know, as long as your opponent does not cross over you and get past the wall, right, and jump over you and get to mid screen, you're good, right? And it's very easy to, you know, just kind of keep them bossed up like this when you're free to adjust space and they're not. Mid screen, it's a little bit different, right? If you were to get a knockdown where you don't have a whole lot of advantage, right? Because they can backdash, they can like you know, try to get away, jump away, fuzzy jump away, things like that, you know. And the dynamic changes a little bit, but still, even then, it's like you don't really lose a whole lot because you did do a lot of corner carry right here, and again, they're not really going to get past you so easily. You know, like of course it depends on a matchup. You don't really want Millie to get into the air, for example, but you know, just to say, you know, because you can also do this exact thing while also taking your guaranteed meaty, right? So you can knock them down with the revolver, do the 2K, and then just back up and wait and look to see what they do. The reason this is important is because this gives you information. You want this information. If you knock them down with this like kind of weak ender without a lot of frame advantage, and you do 2K, oh, let's record that. You do 2K and kind of walk back, right? You see that your opponent backdashes on wake up. This is telling you that they like to backdash on wake up, right? There's a lot of things that people like to pick on knockdowns where the frame advantage looks a little bit iffy, you know, like people like the 6P, you know, they'll be like, oh, I'm gonna 6P, right? If you see that counter, you're like, oh, they pressed something. Maybe they tried to 6P. Either way, they tried the mash, right? They tried the challenge or something, and that gives you information. Like, oh, let me look for this next time, right? People like to throw on wake up too, you know? Like, so you can like backdash or like just kind of stop and see that they whiff throw and be like, oh, this person likes to throw on wake up, right? And that gives you information. So looking out and waiting is not really a bad response in itself either. The third and last option, which also ties into the other two, really, they kind of really all have this like triangle relationship. It's basically the same thing all in all. Is to target how you think they'll try to respond to escape. So if you have reason to believe that they'll backdash or throw or do just generally anything that they've shown you that they're willing to do before, then you can punish them really hard specifically to beat that thing. So with the aforementioned 6P example, you know, I get knocked down and I'm like, oh, well, I'm gonna 6P. Or let's say I didn't take the meteor, right? They had meteor, I'm scared I'm doing wake up DP or something like that, so I don't go over there. Right, I just kind of sit here and I see that they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna pick this thing, and they do this, right? Or actually, no, let's just say they backdash for simplicity's sake. I see the backdash and I'm like, they're probably gonna backdash. You playing Soul right here can be like, oh, well, since they like to do this on wake up, I'm gonna do Fafnir, which doesn't hit meaty at all and will also lose to the mashing, but you know they're gonna backdash and you kill them for it. Like, this is something that's very heavily skewed in Soul's favor. Like, this is a very Soul thing to do, but this dynamic of like I have a certain amount of frames of advantage over you, right? And I can't really get too much, you know, off of this knockdown, you know, but like I can kind of play around like what you want to do to escape, you know, exists throughout the entire cast. Honestly, like, this is something that's super common throughout every character in this game. And this is where things start to open up a bit. If you set the precedent that you will meaty or punish them or just take your frame advantage, right, rather than getting greedy and being like, oh, well, I'm gonna try to get over there anyway, right, and you just take your 2K or 2S or like, you know, whatever, however you want to choose to capitalize on that knockdown, then they'll be more willing to just block on wake up, and that is when you get to do run up close slash. That is when you get to do that, and not before. You have to earn it. The caveat is that you have to earn it. It's not something that you just get to do. If you don't earn it, then you're really just overextending for no reason, and an opponent will hit you. This is a situation that if you look for it, you will actually see it come up a ton in matches in just a lot of scenarios in this game, because this is not tied just to knockdowns. This happens in neutral, this happens on defense, happens on offense. You know, for example, Ram, like, this is a very common Ram maneuver, doing ID back jump S, right? A lot of Rams, you've definitely seen this before, will like make contact with this at the very edge and then pull up really deep and do like a 5K or close ass or something. And when you want to think about overextensions and like whether or not you yourself are overextending or your opponent is overextending on you, or you're like letting them get away with a whole lot, just always think about how much frame advantage do they actually have on this, you know? Like, the number itself is not really that important. It's like how far can they actually push it? You know, that's the question that you want to think about. Because right here, she's plus, yes, a little bit. Not a whole lot, not enough for her to do that. See how I just jump away when I hold up? She is not actually plus enough to just keep me sitting there. You know, so if she tries to pull up after I block this, right, you can just 5k her, right? She has to set the precedent that she's going to take her plus frames and not get greedy, because her dashing in after this, like, even like they'll like do dash up throw or something, this is greedy, this is an overextension. She doesn't get to do this. She has to just like take her plus frames, or show that she'll take her plus frames. And even if you go back to Soul, on offense, in the past versions of this game, I'm sure you remember the S button, right? Just hitting the S button, // right? FD works a lot better than it did in that version, and / will eventually just be out of range and he'll end up whiffing, right? This, if he chooses to like save the space that he's getting pushed out of and run back in, this is him overextending. He doesn't have the frame advantage. This is only +2. If he's that far away after doing this move, like right here, and he tries to dash back in, he's only +2. He really cannot run in and do another / to you, right? Geo can just up back. She can try to, you know, throw him if she wants to. She can mash, you know, try to jump away. There's like a ton of things that she can do there. He's really not that advantageous. Soul, being the aggressor here, honestly, it would be in his best interest to just wait and see what happens. Again, like, she's in a corner. He is not in a corner. He is free to adjust space and basically do whatever he wants here. You know, this is a strong position to be in. He doesn't have to run in and give her the opportunity to hit him. You know, like, he's strong just standing right here. You know, you don't have to overextend and run back in and potentially get hit. So now that we kind of understand what overextending means on like a base level, and went over a couple of examples, let's talk about some scenarios where you might not have frame advantage at all, but still may be overextending. So let's say you play Milia, right? You're very quick, speed of sound, nobody can catch you, you're just moving, right? Say you whiff an ID jump heavy right in front of your opponent and you hit a 2k right after. You just land and hit a button. This is an overextension. Your opponent has not done anything, and they're kind of just standing here in neutral, you know, not really doing much of anything, and you're the one committing to an action. Feasibly, you can't really do anything until your landing recovery ends, you know, even when you do land and hit that button. So definitively, they are an advantage over you. They're not doing anything. You are giving them, like, realistically, you have to think about it in terms of this. You are giving them plus frames because you whiff like this in front of them. So if you decide to press here anyway, they're well within their right to just punch you in the face and delete your health bar. This situation is pretty fast, and before in the video, I did say that this can be done unintentionally by people who just think they have advantage, you know, because this game is very fast, and Milia especially is very fast, so like it can be kind of hard to see, like, oh, I just whiffed, and then you just kind of panic hit a button, you know. But like, remember, like, definitively Soul has done nothing. Like, he has plus frames over you, right? If I would have played this entire situation back and the Soul is looking, he sees that you're gonna whiff this jump heavy, right? He can even fuzzy time this, right? Like, oh, like he hit the S button during the block stun of that move, or when it would normally hit you, right? But because it whiffs, right? Oh lord, imagine being slow. There we go, right? You just delete your health while you're losing mad health. But let's say that you, the melee player, actually recognize this, and you're like, well, I'm gonna whiff here, so I'm just gonna land. I'm just gonna land and block and respect, you know, and keep myself safe. And then Soul decides to run up and throw you, or run up and wall throw you even. Oh no. Calling out that respect. This was not a punish. Neither the regular throw or the wall throw. These are not punishes. This is him overextending on you now. And honestly, in this situation, had you chose to just hit the 2k anyway, alright, you would have won, and you would probably be missing him right now. But just because you could doesn't mean that you necessarily should. And this is where things start to break into like character differences and matchups and things like that. And this one specifically, Milia does not have the light to be trying to bots with Soul like this, or like be really aggressive. It's really just not in her best interest at all. Even though the wild throw could feasibly happen, it doesn't mean you have to mash on it every time to avoid being thrown. You have to pick your battles. Soul, even though he's technically plus, can't really stop her so easily from like just trying to back away. Like, she can backdash, right? And you're like, okay, well, she's gonna land, and then you // and then whiff, and like, she's kind of like plus-ish, you know, like she has a really quick backdash. The turtle duration is really small, so she can like try to jump away after that, you know, or like backdash again, you know, cover mad space. She's just generally really good at trying to disengage and get away from situations rather than just trying to fight all the time. And that's really what she should be prioritizing, or just like in general, as a general rule of thumb, you know, like your health is a valuable resource. You like don't want your health bar to go to 0. Obviously, that's the whole point of the game. So the less risk that you take normally, the better. you know, like both on the side of the person who is overextending and the one who is getting overextended on, you know, like if you had the plus frames, it's usually better to just take your plus frames and not try to get too greedy and dash in super deep, you know. And on the person side who's like actually whiffing or like giving up the frame advantage, you know, it's usually better just, you know, defend rather than trying to fight back, you know. Oh, I'm gonna backdash, or I'm gonna try to jump away, you know, something like that. But, you know, you just have to understand, if you want to do it anyway and be aggressive, understand that you are the one spinning the wheel. You are picking this. You are putting yourself at risk. So when you explode because of it, even if you're right because of it, it's all on you. And I wish that I can just go over all of the situations in this game where this kind of like overextension scenario exists, but honestly, there's just way too many of them. Like, technically, every time you whiff in front of somebody and you like press again and run up, that's an overextension. You know, you're giving your opponent plus frames when you whiff in front of them like that, because you can't do anything as you're recovering. But it's all about how fast you are at reacting to these situations and responding appropriately and quickly, you know. Because like Nago, for example, will be whiffing buttons right in front of you, and then like, honestly, this is something that you probably see all the time. Let's pick Nago here. This is something that you see all the time. Nago is just like whiff 5k, 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 2s, you know, and then you try to dash in after they whiff and you get hit by the next 2s and you're like, yo, what? He just whiffed, right? Or like, even like 2h. Like he'll whiff 2h and then hit 5k and you're like, oh, he hit 2h, it's time for me to run up, and then you get hit. You know, like you have to just take your plus frames. You see, right? And then you go. You don't try to like dash in deeper than you can really do. You know? Oh, maybe I should stick to us here. You know, whatever you think will actually reach in time. You know? Like, oh, like he's whiffing things. Let's do this instead. And he hit the 5k and he's dying for it. You know, like, understand the best bet is to just take your plus frames. But if you want to try to get something a little bit more, you're taking the risk. Overextension is really something that happens at every level of fighting games, whether it be complete beginners or like the super pros even overextend sometimes, you know. It's just really important to understand that if you are going to take that risk, that it is all on you. That, like, I keep saying it because that's the most important part of this video, honestly. Recognize the situations, right? And if you choose to press anyway, understand that it is you. You are the one doing this. But yeah, same as always, if you have any questions or anything like that, just ask me in the comments, go to the stream and ask me. Always happy to help. Peace.